Well, thank you, everybody. I'd like to congratulate the Bally's on a great conference. It's the second time I've been to Zurich and Geneva. I've also been to another conference with them, and I think this has been the best one for me. And I think all the companies here, I've got a really good feel for some of them, and I think there's some great opportunities. This is certainly one of them. I think we're demonstrably a good buy right now. I'm convinced that if not everyone in the room, at least some will buy some stock after this presentation. It's well priced, it's discounted compared to our peers and compared to the value of our investments. Transition Metals is a project generator, so it's a little different than your traditional junior. We don't like to dilute on the equity side. We limit that as much as possible. And we tend to dilute on our property interest. So we sell interest in the assets rather than interest in the equity. That keeps the shareholders' equity dilution, the rate of equity dilution very, very tight. And at the end of the day, we'll own minority interests or royalty interests in a number of discoveries, but you and I as shareholders will own a bigger piece of those discoveries. We have a number of partners that are both invested in the company as well as partners that are working to fund our projects. We have a great team. We've demonstrated our abilities. We have a number of discoveries under our belt. We've been awarded both the National Prospector of the Year Award in Canada and quite recently the Ontario, one of the provincial awards for the Discovery of the Year. We're right across Canada. We have about 30 projects we're involved in across Canada. Most of them are in Ontario. We do have one in the States. And we have some key investments that we're involved in. Notably, we own 36% of Sudbury Platinum Corporation. That's focused in the Sudbury, the great historic mining camp of Sudbury. We have two projects there, one of the better exploration projects on the planet, in my opinion, as well as another project that has exploration potential and a 10 million ton resource. That company will be looking to do a private placement this year and trying to get that company public by the end of the year. A Canadian gold miner, we own 40% of that. That's focused on gold exploration in the Abitibi Greenstone Belt. We have a great 220 square kilometer land package there. Cisco's recently bought up 20% of the company. We are currently taking that company public through an IPO process in the second quarter. And again, a private placement opportunity is available there. We own 11% of Forum Energy Metals. Forum recently purchased our Janus Lake property. With that deal, we received 11% of their equity, as well as some cash payments up front and some in the future. Here are some of our partners. A measure of a good project generator is just not the quality of the projects or the number of projects, but it's also its deal flow. Are we generating projects that are attractive to other companies to come and invest in? And certainly we demonstrate we have good quality top-tier companies such as Impala, the world's second biggest platinum producer, IM Gold, North American Palladium, all spending money on our projects as well as many other juniors. We have key investors. Rick Rule of Sprott US Global owns 15% of the company. He's recently become an insider. David Elliott, one of the founders of Haywood Securities, owns about 10%, as do I. Other notable investors include Cisco Mining Corp. As well as Resource Capital Funds. Our key investments, as I mentioned, are Canadian Gold Miner, Sudbury Platinum, and Forum Energy Metals, and we have other smaller company holdings as well. So this is what the company looks like. It's a little bit complex for a small junior, but the principal company is Transition Metals. It's traded under the symbol XTM on the Toronto Venture Exchange. And we have a number of projects that are optioned out to partners, including gold projects, magmatic sulfide projects, copper projects, and a cobalt project. We have a number of projects that are available for option. I'll talk about a couple of them in this presentation. Of the, how many we have there, 11, there's 3 or 4 that are good quality projects that will be optioned out very quickly. And then we own high ownerships in 2 spin-out companies, as I mentioned earlier, Sudbury Platinum, 2 key nickel, copper, PG, cobalt projects in the Sudbury Igneous Complex, as well as Canadian Gold Miner, a number of projects focused in the Abitibi Greenstone Belt on the Ontario side. Just looking a little bit at our capital structure, the key thing with a project generator is to keep that capital structure low. You'll note that we only have 41.5 million shares outstanding. This company we took public in 2011, did a financing then at 35 cents. 30 cents. We did one in 2014, in the spring of 2014, at 30 cents. And recently did a very small placement to top up the treasury in November, of which some of the people in the room participated. And we did that at 15 cents. So it's definitely a good buy on a historic perspective. In addition, our two holdings of Sudbury Platinum and Canadian Gold Miner have had recent valuations completed on them. Resource capital funds invested in Sudbury Platinum at 30 cents, giving that a value of about $12.3 million. And Osisko Mining recently placed money into Canadian Gold Miner at 20 cents, providing an $8 million valuation for that company. So you can see at the bottom of the slide here on the left-hand side, the value of our investments in these two companies, based on those valuations, is worth more than the total market cap of the company, presumably a negative enterprise value. You can't demonstrate a better buy than that on the market. So if everybody runs out today, as many of you will, and buys a little transition metal stock, you'll essentially be buying the value of our investments and our cash, our projects, our other agreements, and our infrastructure all come along at no cost. Our projects are right across Canada. As you can see, we have a nexus of activity in Ontario. Our two spin-out companies, Canadian Gold Miner and Sudbury Platinum, are a nexus there. We have a number of projects up around Thunder Bay and some zinc projects as well. We do have a project in Saskatchewan, which we recently sold, which I'll talk a little bit about. Some projects in BC, as well as Nunavut and Northwest Territories. We won't go through this slide in detail. There's a couple of key points to take out of this. It's bundled into transition metals, Sudbury Platinum, and Canadian Gold Miner. The pieces you want to take away from here in the transition metals section is that we're actively exploring our Sunday Lake project. We view this as one of our key flagship projects within the enterprise. It's a discovery we made in late 2013, and is currently being drilled, with 2 drills active since late November by North American Palladium, who's currently on embarking on a $4.5 million drilling campaign. We haven't released any news from that program yet, and we hope to in the near future. Go West is working our Pipestone property, and Aldershot is working our Galganda property. We have a few projects that are available for option, but notably we feel that Saturday night in Dundonald will be optioned off in the next quarter due to results that we're seeing out there. Sudbury Platinum is a private company right now. It needs to be refinanced. The key investors there are Resource Capital Funds, RNC Minerals, Transition Metals, Technica Group, and Red Cloud Klondike Strike. Once we refinance that company, we'll drive that towards a public offering in late 2018, or we'll attempt to. Canadian Gold Miner is en route for a public offering right now. We hope to be able to do that in the next few weeks, actually. We're well underway. Osisko owns 19.9% of that company, and we'll be looking to raise $3 million in April and May of this year. In terms of Sunday Lake, you want to keep your eyes on this project. It's a mineralized zone associated with a large regional feature called the Mid-Continental Rift. It's a new style of mineralization. This is an emerging PGE camp, both in Ontario, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan. The mineralized zone we have to date is about 800 meters by 300 meters in size. The best intersection reported to date is about 43 meters of 3.5 grams platinum plus palladium with about 10 meters of 6. These are world-class PGM intersections. As I mentioned earlier, North American Palladium is currently active on the project with 2 diamond drills turning, and Transition Metals enjoys a 25% free carried interest through to the completion of a feasibility study on this project. These are really neat little deposits. The Mid-Continental Rift has been known for many years. It's a large magmatic environment, and hosts sort of large passive systems like the Duluth Complex and the Caldwell Complex. But just recently in this century, we've discovered a new style of mineralization, or the industry has discovered a new style of mineralization, which are the early rift rocks, the very first intrusions that came up during the rifting event. And notable examples are Lundine's Eagle Mine in Michigan, Talon and Rio Tinto's Tamarack development project in Minnesota. These projects on this map, this is a magnetic map of the Thunder Bay area of Ontario. It's about 75 kilometers across. And you'll note that there's a few interesting magnetic features here. See if I can get the thing working here. Notably, up in the far right corner there, there's these small reversely polarized features. That represents about 1 million ounces of platinum equivalent owned by Panoramic and Rio Tinto. Down in the Thunder Bay area near the bottom of the map is another reversely polarized magnetic feature. And this is a mineralized intrusion in the subdivision of Thunder Bay that requires more work. Sunday Lake is in the middle of the map. That's probably the best one there. These are very characteristic of these deposits. They were in place when the Earth's poles were reversed, so north was south and south was north, and so they're high mag features that are reversely polarized. We've identified another one we call Saturday Night. Oh, thanks. We've identified another one that we've called Saturday Night over here. It's a little smaller than Sunday Lake, but we own 100% of it with no underlying royalties. We've staked this. We decided to spend some of our own money to drill a single hole into it. So the one wildcat hole that we drilled into the only hole in the whole intrusion is still returning great mineralization, 6 meters of over a gram with a small intersection of 4 grams. This will be optioned off very quickly. We're just holding this back until we can get results from Sunday Lake out. Another project which will be optioned imminently is Dundonald. There's a lot of interest in this project with the renewed interest in nickel and cobalt. This is about a 9.5 kilometer strike length of nickel PGMs and cobalt within a komatiite sequence. There is a small resource associated with this property, but the mineralization is very high-grade nickel and PGMs. You can see some of the intersections that have been returned in the past. There's even a VMS deposit on this property called the Terminus Zone. It's mostly copper zinc, but notably it also hosts in this one intersection 0.13% cobalt. So we anticipate that this is another project that we'll be able to option in the coming weeks. I'll just touch on a couple of our major investments. Canadian gold miner, Sudbury Platinum, and Forum Energy Metals. Canadian gold miner is 40% owned by Transition Metals. It has a camp scale property position within the notorious Abitibi Greenstone Belt. The Abitibi Greenstone Belt has produced about 180 million ounces of gold through time, and is still Canada's largest gold producer, producing about 80% of Canada's gold on an annualized basis. Osisko Mining now owns 19% of Canadian gold miner, and we have some other projects that are less strategic that are being operated and explored by IAMGOLD and Explorex. Our plans for this project are to take this company, are to take it public in the early part of the next quarter. We'll focus on drilling off a couple of key properties, notably the South Kirkland property, which I'll show you in a second, as well as the DeSantis project. We are hopeful that alongside of this IPO, we'll be able to provide a share dividend back to Transition shareholders of some of the shares that we hold within Transition. So this is a map of the Abitibi on the Ontario side. The map is about 250 kilometers across, and gold in this camp is associated with these major crustal structures or breaks. The Dester Porcupine through the Timmins camp, which has produced about 70 million ounces of past production. The Cadillac Larder break, which includes the Kirkland Lake Larder camp, which has produced about 40 million ounces of gold through time. And a new emerging frontier, which is the Rideout structure south on this map. And over the last number of years, about 15 million ounces have been discovered along that break between the Shining Tree area and out into the Swayze Belt. Our main property is this property here. It's called South Kirkland. We control a 25-kilometer strike of a splay fault off the main break called the Lincoln Nipissing. The whole strike length is riddled with numerous gold showings, past producing workings, and pits along this. It's very, in the geologic context, it's very similar to the Canadian Malartic situation. It's on a secondary splay south of the main break. It's down in the older rocks of the Pontiac rather than Temiskaming. And I believe that this is why Osisko was interested in their equity position on us, in that they had attempted to acquire this property in the past, were unable to, and when we acquired it, it sparked their interest to join us. With our deal with Osisko, we also acquired 2 properties, the DeSantis and the Catherine. The DeSantis is certainly an interesting project, past producer with a small resource, but again, some excellent exploration upside. Sudbury Platinum, we own 36% of. Anybody who knows Sudbury knows that it's a difficult place to get a toehold in. The camp is controlled by 3 senior companies. One is called Glencore, one is called Valet, and the third is KGHM out of Poland. For us to be able to get 2 key properties in this camp is a real coup. We were able to purchase the Eric Kidd property. This was a property that I had tried to acquire for Falconbridge in 2003, was unable to. Tried to acquire it when I first left Xstrata Nickel in 2007, was unable to, and finally, after 2 years of negotiating with the Chinese, was able to acquire it in 2013. Lockerbie East is a project I sold when I was in Falconbridge for $8.6 million. I was able to buy that back out of a bankruptcy sale for $100,000 in cash and $100,000 in shares. Eric Kidd sits between 2 key deposits, 2 key mines in the Sudbury camp. One is Valet's Totten mine. It's worth about $6 billion in in-situ metal value. And just on our other property boundary is KGHM's development project called Victoria, worth about $12 billion of in-situ metal value. Lockerbie East hosts some resources, a rather low-grade 10 million tons of low-grade material running about 0.7 nickel equivalent, and a high-grade plum at depth that's up over 3%. We've also identified some very attractive exploration targets below the resources that need to be drilled. Our near-term plans are to recapitalize this company, get the drill initiated again at Eric Kidd, and hopefully take this towards a public offering later this year. This is the camp. It's a 60 by 30 kilometer meteorite impact site where an astroblem struck the Earth about 1.85 billion years ago. It's been in production since 1883 and has produced about 1.6 billion tons of ore from 56 mines, and currently has 11 mines in operation with 2 smelters and two mills. Our properties sit down in the southwest corner. We have the Lockerbie East, which is classified as a contact deposit, large low-grade resource with some exceptional exploration upside. And then Eric Kidd, which sits on the Worthington offset dike, sandwiched in between Totten, which is 10 million tons of 1.5% nickel, 2% copper, and nearly 5 grams PGMs, and Victoria, which will be built, which is being built now, and it's about 15 million tons, 2.5% nickel, 2.5% copper, and nearly 8 grams precious metals. And Eric likes it when I call this a jewelry box. The final investment I'll talk about is Forum Energy Metals. We basically sold our Janus Lake project to them in return for cash and shares and a royalty. This is a sedimentary hosted copper project in Saskatchewan and in the Wollaston domain. It's about 55 kilometers southeast of the southeast corner of the Athabasca Basin. The project hosts disseminated chalcocite throughout the property. Some of our work to date has identified grab samples as high as 10% copper, but notably the target here is about 1% copper as chalcocite over 20 to 30 meters. This is the only worldwide analog we can find to the Udokan deposit in Russia, which is being built by Bakai Mining, which is a subsidiary of Metallo Invest. Udokan is 26 million tons of contained copper. It's a 3 billion ton ore body with 1% copper, all is chalcocite. For those folks who don't know what chalcocite is, it's a high-grade copper mineral. It's about twice as much copper in the mineral structure that chalcopyrite hosts, which is the more common ore mineral, and therefore will float and produce a very high-grade concentrate. So I want to encourage you to take a good look at transition metals. We feel it's discounted right now. It's a great buy right now. By buying it today, you're essentially buying our investments, and everything else comes along for free. We have a number of catalysts that will take us through the rest of the year. I expect that this will have a positive impact on our share price. That includes taking Canadian Gold Miner public, and by doing that, we'll create some news flow, but we'll also create a good, robust drilling program on our South Kirkland and DeSantis properties. We expect results from North American Palladium in the near future, and I hope to be able to release those sometime in the near future. I'm hopeful that those are positive and will have energy into our stock as they continue to drill. We expect that we'll be able to option projects quite readily in the next few weeks. Dundonald and Saturday Night are obvious ones that we expect to be optioned. That when we do these options, that often creates excitement in our stock and definitely guarantees work to get done and news flow to be created. We did do the deal with Forum Energy Metals. They will be exploring Janus Lake this summer. We expect news to start flowing out of that project later in the summer. And Sudbury Platinum, of course, once we get that finance, which if anyone's interested in hearing more details on that, please come and talk to me. And once that's financed, we'll fire up the drill again at Airkid and look to try and take that company public. We're getting low on the shelf in terms of projects, in terms of good quality projects for option. We've raised a little bit of money recently that we're going to be re-energizing our project generation activities. We've already identified targets and projects that we're after right now for acquisitions and staking. Those two will, again, keep the company moving forward in terms of news flow. Thanks very much.